We're not stronger than Christ. Get over here, Dad. Grab her. Grab her. You are not stronger. No, you are not stronger than Christ.
Some evil doesn't hide in the shadows. It takes over your body. It speaks in voices you've never heard.
You are not stronger than Christ.
And sometimes it makes even doctors and priests question reality. These are 3 real-life possessions so terrifying, so unexplained, they shook even the experts called to stop them. You've seen horror movies. Now hear the stories they were afraid to tell. Welcome to the Lost Tapes 404.
We'll see if he'll speak to us.
Yeah.
Is anybody there?
No.
Who's there?
Doctor.
Anneliese Michel was 23 years old when she died, but what led to her death remains one of the most terrifying and controversial exorcism cases in modern history. She grew up in a devout Catholic home in Klingenberg. At 16, things changed. It started with sleep paralysis, strange smells, and whispers only she could hear. Then came the visions, horrific, hollowed-eyed figures lurking in her bedroom. She claimed they weren't dreams. They were waiting. Doctors diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy, but instead of improving, she spiraled. The voices grew louder. "You are damned," they hissed. "You belong to us." She clawed her face, tore her clothes, and slept on the cold floor. Her personality shifted. At school, she'd growl under her breath, her eyes going dark with rage. She displayed unnatural strength, once throwing off people trying to restrain her. Then came the voices, deep, guttural, inhuman. She claimed 6 entities possessed her: Lucifer, Cain, Nero, Judas Iscariot, Adolf Hitler, and a 6th unnamed. Each demon, she said, fought for control. Desperate, her parents turned to the church. After nearly a year of pleading, 2 priests were sent to evaluate her. What they witnessed disturbed even them. Anneliese convulsing at holy water, hissing at crucifixes, and speaking Latin fluently despite never studying it. The Vatican approved of a full exorcism. From September 1975 to July 1976, 67 exorcism sessions were performed, some lasting over 4 hours. The recordings are horrifying. Her voice would change mid-sentence. Sometimes, multiple voices spoke at once. She barked for hours, crawled under tables, and bit the wood. She urinated on the floor, then licked it up. In one chilling tape, a voice snarls, "I am Lucifer. I rule the others. She belongs to us now." By the final months, Anneliese was emaciated. Her knees shattered from constant kneeling. She refused to eat, believing starvation would rid her of the demons. One night, she told her mother, "I want to suffer for the sins of the youth and the priests. Mother, I'm scared." On July 1, 1976, Anneliese Michel died in her home. She weighed just 68 pounds. Her body was found surrounded by religious icons, her fingers twisted, her face locked in an expression one officer described as a mixture of agony and peace. Her parents and 2 priests were charged with negligent homicide. During the trial, the tapes were played in court, shocking the public.
Ich hab recht dazu, dass ich in dem Weib ein bin. Ich trag dir die Rotnase noch so lang, bis es krepiert. Die saublöde Weib. Es geht kein Zurück. Sie in alle Ewigkeit.
Doctors claimed epilepsy and psychosis. The priests insisted it was possession. The church never officially recognized demonic influence, but they buried her with a rosary in her hands and a locked coffin. Today, her grave draws visitors from around the world. Some claim to hear whispers. Others say they've seen her face in the trees. But one question still haunts the case. Was Anneliese Michel mentally ill? Or did something ancient and evil truly take hold? Anneliese Michel had priests, rituals, and 67 chances to fight back. But what if you're denied that chance entirely? In South Africa, one family's desperate cry for help was ignored, and what followed was something even darker. At a quiet Catholic mission school in Natal Province, something evil made itself known, and it started with a whisper. Clara Germana Cele was just 16 years old. A bright, quiet girl raised by missionaries at St. Michael's Mission School after losing her parents. She was known for her devotion to faith, until one day she approached a priest with a chilling confession. She said she had made a pact with the devil. Within days, everything changed. Clara became cold, aggressive. Her eyes, once warm, burned with hatred. She began snarling at nuns, tearing at her skin, and speaking in languages she had never learned: Latin, Polish, German. One nun wrote in her journal, "The child Clara is no longer Clara. Something else speaks through her." Her strength became inhuman. Nuns reported her lifting furniture with ease. One sister suffered broken ribs after being thrown across the room by Clara with a single push. Clara's voice began to shift mid-sentence, from a frightened girl to a deep, growling snarl that echoed from her chest. Then came the levitation. Over a dozen nuns and students witnessed Clara float nearly 5 feet into the air. Arms extended, eyes rolled back. One student fainted on the spot. Others ran screaming from the room. Her skin grew flushed, her body feverish. At night, she screamed for hours, cursing God, threatening to burn the school to the ground. She began revealing the secret sins of the priests and nuns, details no one believed she could have possibly known. Holy water burned her. When sprinkled, she'd thrash and scream as if doused in fire. Her eyes would lock on people across the room with animalistic rage. Finally, the church acted. 2 Roman Catholic priests were called, and what they encountered would haunt them for life. The exorcism lasted 2 full days, non-stop. Clara screamed until her throat gave out. She snapped at priests like a wild animal, once biting through the flesh of one's hand. She vomited black bile, laughed hysterically in a voice that wasn't her own. At one point, she recited, word for word, a private prayer one priest had whispered alone the night before. Then suddenly, silence. Clara collapsed, unconscious, still. When she awoke, she was calm. Her voice was normal, and she claimed to remember nothing. The possession was over, but the trauma remained. Many who witnessed it left the mission. One nun abandoned her vows entirely, saying, "I have seen," and it wore the face of a child. Clara eventually returned to a normal life, but she never spoke of the pact again, and some believe it never truly ended. To this day, Clara Germana Cele's case is considered one of the most credible and terrifying accounts of possession ever recorded, with dozens of first-hand witnesses and no medical explanation. No drugs, no illness. Just a girl, a confession, and a darkness that almost couldn't be cast out. Sometimes it's not a teenage girl or a remote town. Sometimes it happens in the heart of America, in a case so terrifying it inspired one of the most iconic horror movies ever made. Before The Exorcist terrified the world, it was based on a real case. A boy, a Ouija board, and something that may have crossed over. Maryland, 1949. 13-year-old Roland Doe, a pseudonym, was grieving the death of his aunt, his closest companion, and the person who had introduced him to the Ouija board. Soon after, strange things began happening. It started with scratching behind the walls, then footsteps, then objects moved on their own. Chairs dragged across the floor, books flew off shelves, knives launched from the kitchen. Then Roland himself changed. He began waking up with deep, bloody scratches across his body, sometimes forming words like, or evil. He'd speak in a deep, growling voice that wasn't his own. He hissed at crosses, spat at prayers, and raged uncontrollably when shown anything religious. His parents sought help from doctors, then psychiatrists. Nothing worked. So they turned to the church. A priest performed a simple blessing. Roland screamed and threw a chair across the room. The priest backed away and escalated the case. Soon, Roland was moved to St. Louis, where 2 priests, including Father William Bodern, began a full exorcism. What they recorded in 26 pages of notes would go on to inspire The Exorcist. The sessions were violent. Roland would thrash in bed, swearing in Latin, though he'd never studied it. He broke free of restraints more than once. He spat, cursed, and even laughed in multiple voices, some claiming to be many. During one session, scratches appeared across his chest, forming the phrase, "I am Legion." Holy water burned his skin. He kicked, screamed, and began revealing private sins and secrets of those in the room. In one terrifying moment, Roland reached under his bed, ripped out a metal bed spring, and slashed one of the priest's arms open, drawing blood through his cassock. Objects continued to move on their own. At one point, a Bible was said to burst into flames. Another time, a crucifix cracked in half when placed on his chest. And yet, despite the chaos, the priests persisted. The exorcism lasted more than a month. Then one night, it stopped. Roland opened his eyes, calm, aware, and simply said, "He's gone." He had no memory of the sessions. The church declared the exorcism successful. Roland returned to a normal life under a new identity. He grew up, married, and never spoke of what happened again. But the witnesses never forgot. When asked decades later whether the possession was real, Father Halloran, one of the exorcists, simply said, "I know what I saw, and it wasn't human." To this day, the case of Roland Doe remains one of the most documented and frightening possession stories in modern history, and a chilling reminder that sometimes evil doesn't hide in the dark. Sometimes it finds a way in through a board, a boy, and a door that was never meant to be opened. These are the tapes that never should have been heard, the stories whispered behind locked church doors, filed under mental illness, or maybe something worse. Whether you believe in demons or think the human mind is capable of unimaginable horror, one thing's for sure: not everything can be explained, and some voices should never be summoned. If you enjoy true horror based on real events, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next tape might be even darker.